This is Carl Darge, and welcome back to another little adventure we got going on here. As you can see, we got a little steam leak in the side of this boiler. It's leaking good enough to have disrupted the asbestos packing that's all around it, making it a mess and making it a hazard. This boiler, as you see it right now, is 110 years old. So we're not going to try to repair it. It's just piping that's falling apart, but who knows what the casting is like. But at 110 years old, we're going to replace it. Besides, I think we can save an awful lot of energy with a new boiler. This whole coal-fired boiler, to get this thing going, you really got to put in a little bit of a flame. 110 years is a long time, but this flame doesn't tell us anything about how to size this boiler. It's nice, it's big. This boiler is huge. The controls on it are there. I've maintained this thing for over 20 years. And now it's time to give it the kiss goodbye. So where do we start? Well, the boiler itself is nice to look at, but it doesn't give us any hints onto what size we need to make it, the new one. Here is a little bit of energy efficiency added to the boiler. We'll talk about this some more, but this was added onto the flue pipe to gather a little heat off the flue pipe and move it through the house. So let's say goodbye to this monstrous flame and go where we have to go to size the boiler. We have to go to the upstairs and to the radiators, because nothing in this basement will tell us what to do.
These radiators are enclosed. We'll tell you the name of them in a minute. But first of all, we're going to get the measurement from the floor to the top of the radiator. We have
18 inches.
18 inches. Now, as you can see here, this is 3 columns. And we have to count the sections now, so we know the height. Now we have found that it is a Peerless boiler, radiator, not boiler. And it's a 3 column. And so we're going to look it up on the chart here, so we know that the height is 18.
For those of you who haven't figured it out, that is Dan Hallahan's book that we're using, Every Darn Radiator, the EDR book. In that we have been able to look up all of the different radiators that we in this house, and there's a lot of them. This house has 3 stories above ground. The basement is in the ground and a walkout. There's radiators
18 inches high.
everywhere.
This is the number of sections. So you said how many sections?
16.
16. So that gives us a number of 36.
Okay, on the back porch we have this radiator. You notice it's got a vent on it. It's only a 1-pipe stammer. The rest of the house is 2-pipe. So I'm thinking that this was enclosed at one time. And we still have to figure it in, and it's working and heating right now. So again, back to the book, and we look it up. We got 7 columns in this one. Very good, but we have found it in the book. And again, we add it to the list. Okay, after this one, we have a new one that we found in the stairwell. This is in a stairway between the first and second floor, the servant stairway. And it's a really interesting, here we find it in the book, and you notice the little curved edges at the end of the radiator. How nice that looks. And here, if you look really close, you can see those beautiful curves still present. What a beautiful radiator. It's in the book. We write it down. And even in the basement, lays up on the ceiling, we found those. While all of this is going on in the house, also what's going on is some upgrades need to be made to the well tanks. And that, so here the plumbers are installing that. The pneumatic controls were installed years ago, and they work on a lot of the radiators on the main floor and in the second floor. And there's the air compressor for the pneumatic. it's up and running. And here we have some of the old controls. I don't believe they're still in functioning use, but you never know. But here's something very interesting. A central vacuum cleaning system from 1906. It looks pretty interesting to me. I wonder if it still works. The motor would be the biggest problem. Get that thing working right there on top. And also in the basement, they have a few other things. Their hot water system now is a hot water tank. And there's a recycling line for it. But at one time, the tank in the back was the hot water for the house, with a sidearm way of making hot water off that boiler. But now a little upgrade. Here's reclaiming some of the heat off the stacks that go from the boiler to the chimney. So this has been engineered about by the present homeowner's father. He was an engineer, and back in the 70s he took it upon himself to figure this out. It actually has been working pretty good since the 70s. It does heat the kitchen of the house. The ducts go from the boiler down the hallway, turn, and go up the stairs to Now we have all the engineering done. The radiators have been measured up, so now we can take all of those, look it up in the catalog, and we're going to use a Weil McLean, and we're putting it up for bid. And I'll be on the job here on the next part of this project to see the asbestos removed. But before we leave, let's take one last look at this little monster. There is a lot of asbestos here. The homeowner wants the asbestos on almost the whole estate removed, which means there's a lot out in the carriage house and other parts of this place. So this project is going to be ongoing for a while. And let's take a little look here at these little items that are hanging around. These are automatic fire extinguishers. They have a fusible link in them, so if the fire got hot enough, that little ball was to fall down and put out the fire. I don't think that would really happen. Let's take a closer look at it. If you can read it, it'll says grab it and throw it at the base of the fire. Now if this room is on fire, I don't think I'm going to reach up to the ceiling to grab this thing and throw it at the base of the fire. But what I would grab is the little fire hose that's hanging on the wall just outside of the room. Now that I would take and use to put out the fire. It's called a Class A fire extinguisher. Really not, but for 1906 it was.